Alright Pistons fans, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about Detroit Pistons basketball. It is officially back. Yesterday, we had our first preseason game against the San Antonio Spurs. So in this video, I'm going to be going player by player and give you guys my thoughts about their performance from yesterday's game. Now, if you want like a full breakdown slash recap, go to my backup channel. I will be posting a breakdown slash recap video on my backup channel that will have more detail. But in this video specifically, I'm just going to go player by player and give you guys my thoughts about their performance yesterday. So the first player that I want to talk about is Cory Joseph. I was very pleased by what I seen from Cory Joseph. You know, Saben Lee in this game really struggled for me personally early on. I was not liking what I saw early in the game out of Saben Lee because Saben is an aggressive guy. He tries to score the basketball, but he really isn't a point guard. He's not someone who's really setting up for others or is passing the ball in transition or just helps the offense flow. When Saben Lee was in the game, from what I seen, it just felt like the offense just wasn't clicking like that. But once Cory Joseph got in the game, that's when the offense really started to pick up because Cory Joseph is a true point guard. He is someone who knows how to play the pace of the game, how to set up for others, and also score the ball and get past his defenders when necessary. So once Cory Joseph got in the game, coming off the bench, he immediately came in and gave you that backup point guard production that we will need from him this upcoming season. You know, with Killian being the starter, with Frank Jackson most likely being the backup point guard slash shooting guard. Then we're going to have Cory Joseph right there. I don't know what their plans are for Saben Lee. We'll figure that out. I'll discuss that later in this video once I get to him. But as far as Cory goes, this season he will probably be the third string point guard. And if he plays like he did tonight in a few minutes that he does get in the regular season, you know, 10, 12, however many minutes he gets in the regular season, if he can give us a little bit of this type of production, just come in, score the basketball when necessary, and set up for others. If Cory can do that for us, that will be perfect. That will fit the role that we need from him. Now let's talk about Jerami Grant. Jerami Grant had a very solid game, didn't play in the fourth quarter, sat for a lot of the third quarter as well. You know, the main time when we seen Jerami Grant in this basketball game against the Spurs was in the second quarter. Once Jerami Grant really got going in the second quarter, he was on fire. He hit multiple three-pointers. He was attacking the hole, being aggressive. And then also because of that aggressiveness, he drew a lot of fouls and got to the free throw line as well. So Jerami Grant tonight on offense was very solid. And then on defense, I didn't have any issues with him tonight on defense. So overall, Jerami Grant, you know, leading the team in scoring without even playing in the fourth quarter, without a true point guard, Killian Hayes. He was out there with Saben Lee, who was not a pass-first point guard, to put up 19 points in a preseason game. His first game back in many months when he should be rusty. To have this type of performance is very good for Jerami Grant. So for him, I was very pleased as well, similar to Cory Joseph. Very pleased with those two guys tonight. Now let's talk about Saddiq Bey. So Saddiq Bey is continuing, you know, his summer league success. He's bringing it to the preseason and he played well last night. Saddiq is so smooth with his game, so efficient. And also what I really did like from him tonight is that he put a lot of his defenders in the post and either put a move on them where he could drive to the hole or decided to shoot a fadeaway. Either one of those moves was very cool to see from Saddiq, and I'm glad that he's opening up more and just trying out new moves that he's been working on. He did the same thing in preseason. He tested out a lot of things and it led to him going to the free throw line a lot more in the summer league. So I'm happy that he's still adding things to his game and showing it off in times like summer league and preseason. Now let's get to Isaiah Stewart. Now this is the guy who I wasn't really, you know, pleased with last night. So Isaiah Stewart, we know that he's lacking in size. He's 6'9" or 6'8", one of those two, and he's obviously undersized, not as big as the typical center out there. A lot of people actually want him to switch to the power forward position. And tonight it showed, you know, he tried his best to guard these guys, you know, Jakob Poeltl, Hernan Gomez. He tried his best to box these guys out when it came to rebounding the basketball. And once they got the ball in the post, he tried his best to guard these guys. But simply put, because of his lack of size, he just struggled against them. Jakob Poeltl is 7 feet tall and is a skilled big man. He feasted on Isaiah Stewart. Hernan Gomez, he didn't feast on him in terms of scoring the basketball, but once it came to rebounding, he got rebounds over Isaiah Stewart and moved him out of his position. So with Stewart tonight, he really didn't get help early on in the game, but then later on in the game with Josh Jackson and Cory Joseph, they ended up coming and giving help defense once Poeltl and Hernan Gomez got the ball in the post, and it helped out Isaiah Stewart. But I have to make the point known that Stu did struggle tonight. He struggled to get rebounds. He struggled to guard Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl, he reminds me of Mason Plumlee in a few ways, a very talented passer. You know, these passing big men, it's rare that you find them, but once you do, they're just really good for your offense. So Poeltl had a good night against Isaiah Stewart. Stewart still has a lot to work on, still has a lot to grow. Even with his lack of size, he can still become a really talented center or power forward, whichever position he decides to play at. He can still become a really successful defensive player one day. It's just tonight was not his night. He struggled. He needs to review the tape and look at what he did wrong so that he can improve on it in the future. Now let's talk about Saben Lee. As I mentioned earlier on in this video, was not pleased by what I seen out of Saben Lee tonight. Saben Lee, for me, you know, the first thing that I noticed was his ball handling. I did see it last year, but I guess it was something that I really just glossed over and didn't really take note of. But the ball handling of Saben Lee is not pretty, man. He really doesn't have many moves to shake off his defenders. He can't create space for himself with his lack of three-point shooting. So even if he does shake off his defender, which he rarely does, but if he does do it, he won't be able to knock down the shot because his three-point shooting isn't there right now. And as I said earlier, the flow of the game is just not there when Saben Lee is in the game. I know people will throw out the argument, oh, well, the Pistons had like a 19-point lead when Saben was in the game. Just because Saben was in the game and was the point guard does not necessarily mean that we had a 19-point lead because of Saben. He just happened to be in the game while we were on our run. He did not necessarily contribute to the run that we had. If anything, if it was somebody like Killian Hayes who was in the game and the shooters were shooting the ball like the way that they were, it wouldn't just have been a 19-point lead. It would have been 20-plus point lead by the end of the first quarter if Killian was in a game because of his playmaking ability. So to wrap up, you know, the Saben point, I just want to say that Saben Lee, in my personal opinion, is 1 or 2 years away from really contributing in the NBA. I just don't believe he's ready right now. Now let's talk about Kelly Olynyk. I was happy by the mobility of Kelly Olynyk tonight. You know, there were some plays where he was running in transition when he had the ball, or even in a half-court offense where he was driving to the basket, where he looked like a small forward with his speed, man. He looked nimble out there. He looked pretty quick. He knocked down a couple of three-point jumpers. He attacked to the hole and scored inside. That is what Kelly Olynyk is brought here to do. We're not necessarily needing him to play defense, to rebound a basketball. We just need him to score the ball and be a veteran presence in the locker room to help mentor these young guys. So the game that he played tonight is basically what we need him to do in the regular season. Score the ball, mentor the young guys, and just be a good Piston. Trey Lyles hit a few three-pointers tonight, which was cool. And Josh Jackson as well hit a few three-pointers. He had a really cool highlight dunk. And I was happy to see that a lot of the fans, you know, recognized that he's a Detroit guy, and every time he touched the ball, they were cheering for him. So Pistons fans, you know, to wrap up this video, we beat the San Antonio Spurs. I know that it's the preseason, so you don't want to ever get too high, but you can feel happy. You can be hyped a little bit, but at the same time, be realistic and know, you know, our expectations for this season. We didn't see much of Luka Garza. He got in late, but in the few minutes that he did play, he did score the basketball and he got a block. So that was cool to see. And then the fans, they went ballistic when Garza got in the game. They started cheering, you know, really hard for him. So that was cool to see. You know, Pickett, didn't see much of Pickett tonight. And then obviously Chris Smith is out, Isaiah Livers is out, Frank Jackson, Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes, all of those guys are out with injuries. So hopefully we will see them in the future. So Pistons fans, make sure you guys like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and make sure you guys go watch my video on my backup channel. I'm doing a part 2 to this, a recap of last night's game on my backup channel. So like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Thank y'all for 3K, and I'm out.